thanking me for my early investment and confirming my stock options had just crossed the $5 million mark. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Richard. I'm 67 years old, and I've spent my entire career as an electrical engineer in the Midwest. Nothing flashy, just honest work that put my son through college and allowed me to save for retirement. I've always lived modestly in the same 4-bedroom house I bought 30 years ago. My late wife always said I was practical to a fault, and she wasn't wrong. When my son Michael met Amber 5 years ago in San Francisco, I was genuinely happy for him. She was smart, ambitious, working for a tech startup and seemed to make him happy. But from the very first time I met her, there was something in the way she looked at me, like I was some kind of relic. You know that look millennials give you when they think you don't understand something? That slight head tilt, the patronizing smile. I tried to ignore it. "Your dad is so Midwest," I overheard her telling my son once. She said it like it was some kind of disease. "Has he ever even been on a plane?" I was standing just around the corner. For the record, I'd traveled to 23 countries during my engineering career, but she never bothered to ask. But what happened last Sunday at our annual family BBQ is what really changed everything between us. I've hosted this BBQ every summer since Michael was a kid. This year we had about 20 people in the backyard. Michael and Amber had flown in from California. My brother's family was there, and some neighbors and old friends. I was at the grill doing what I do best, perfectly timed steaks and burgers, when Amber walked over with her craft IPA in hand. "Richard, don't you think it's time to upgrade from that ancient charcoal grill? They make smart grills now that connect to your phone." Though, she looked at my flip phone on the side table and laughed. "You'd probably need to get a smartphone first." I just smiled. This grill has served me well for 15 years. No reason to replace something that works. She took a sip of her beer. "That's the problem with your generation. No innovation, no vision for the future. It's why millennials have to clean up all your messes." I kept flipping burgers, trying to keep the peace. My brother Tom, however, wasn't having it. "Hey, Amber, did you know Richard here was actually an early investor in several tech companies?" Her eyebrows shot up and she let out a laugh that made everyone turn to look. No offense, but I find that hard to believe. What tech companies would Richard even know about? IBM? The group got quiet. Even my son looked uncomfortable. "Dad was always into tech stuff," Michael said, trying to smooth things over. "He built our first computer from scratch when I was a kid." Amber rolled her eyes. Building a PC in the 90s and understanding today's tech ecosystem are totally different things. I mean, Richard probably thinks Elon Musk is a cologne brand. That got a few awkward laughs from the younger crowd. My neighbor Bill, who knew me better than most, shook his head slightly. "What's your retirement plan anyway, Richard?" Amber continued, seemingly enjoying being the center of attention. "Social Security and a gold watch. My financial advisor says boomers not having proper investment portfolios is the biggest economic crisis facing America. Now, I'm generally a patient man. My late wife used to say I had the temperament of a saint, but something about the smug certainty in Amber's voice got under my skin. "I have a few investments," I said quietly, turning a burger. "Let me guess. CDs at the local bank? Treasury bonds?" She was practically giddy now, playing to the audience. "My startup friends and I talk about this all the time. The wealth gap between the tech-savvy and the tech-ignorant is the new class divide." My son finally intervened. "Amber, come on, let's change the subject." "No, it's important, Michael. Your dad's generation needs to understand how the world works now. I bet Richard doesn't even know what Tesla is beyond expensive electric cars." That's when my phone rang. My old flip phone, the one Amber had just mocked. I excused myself and walked a few steps away to answer it. The connection was on speaker. I never could figure out how to change that setting, and the voice came through clear enough for everyone nearby to hear. "Mr. Bennett, this is Melissa Wilson from Tesla Shareholder Relations. I'm calling to confirm our conversation from yesterday about your stock options. The split has been finalized, and as one of our earliest individual investors, your portfolio has just crossed the $5 million mark. Mr. Musk wanted me to personally thank the original engineering group investors who believed in us before anyone else did. The silence in my backyard was deafening. I could feel every eye on me, especially Amber's. Thank you, Melissa. That's good to hear, I said calmly. Please give Elon my regards. I hung up and went back to my burgers as if nothing had happened. Now I know what you're thinking. That's one heck of a coincidence, right? The truth is, it wasn't entirely coincidental. I knew Tesla was announcing their stock split that weekend. I may have mentioned it to Melissa when she called the previous week to update my information. And I may have mentioned our family BBQ. Was it petty of me? Perhaps. But sometimes lessons need to be learned. You should have seen Amber's face. It was like watching someone reboot in real time. Her mouth opened and closed without any words coming out. My son looked equally shocked. Not about the Tesla stock, which he knew about, but about the amount. I'd always been private about my finances. Dad, Michael started but seemed at a loss for words. $5 million? Amber finally managed to say. In Tesla stock, but how? When? I flipped the last burger and closed the grill lid. Back in 2004, I was part of a consortium of electrical engineers consulted on battery technology. We were each offered stock options as part of our compensation. Most of my colleagues sold their shares years ago. I kept mine. I shrugged. I believed in the technology. But you drive a 10-year-old Honda, Amber sputtered. I smiled. It's reliable. Gets me where I need to go. My brother Tom was grinning from ear to ear. Richard has always been the smartest guy in the room. He just never felt the need to announce it. The BBQ continued, but the dynamic had shifted dramatically. Amber suddenly became very interested in my outdated charcoal grilling technique. She offered to get me a drink 3 times. She mentioned how much she'd always respected self-made investors. It was quite the transformation. Later, as people were leaving, Amber approached me in the kitchen while I was cleaning up. Richard, I want to apologize for what I said earlier. It was completely out of line. I looked at her, seeing real embarrassment in her eyes for the first time since I'd known her. You know, Amber, the thing about assumptions is they often reveal more about the person making them than the person they're made about. She nodded, looking at the floor. I deserve that. The truth is, I continued, I've made plenty of investment mistakes too. For every Tesla, there were 3 companies that went nowhere. The difference is I never assumed I was the smartest person in the room just because I understood something someone else didn't. I really am sorry, she said quietly, and not just because of the money. The way I talked to you was disrespectful regardless of anything else. That's when I decided to show her something I hadn't shown anyone except my son. I led her to my home office and unlocked the bottom drawer of my desk. Inside was a folder with my original Tesla investment documents, alongside other papers. I'm not just an investor in Tesla, I explained, showing her the folder. I hold patents on 3 different battery cooling systems used in their early models. That consultation work I mentioned? It turned into something more significant. Her eyes widened as she looked through the patent documents. But you never talk about any of this. You let people think you're just a Midwest boomer who doesn't understand technology. I finished for her. Amber, at my age, I've learned that true confidence doesn't need constant validation from others. I know what I've accomplished. That's enough for me. She was silent for a moment, then asked, Does Michael know all this? About the patents? Yes. About exactly how much the Tesla stock is worth now? No. I've always taught him that wealth isn't something to flaunt. Money doesn't define success, it's just a byproduct of doing something worthwhile. We rejoined the party, and I could see Amber looking at me differently. Not with the newfound respect that comes from learning someone is wealthy, but with a more genuine curiosity. Maybe for the first time she was seeing me as a person, not just a category. The next morning, before they flew back to San Francisco, Amber approached me again while Michael was loading their bags into my neighbor's car for the airport ride. "I've been thinking about what you said," she began. "About assumptions. I make them all the time, don't I?" I smiled. "We all do to some extent, it's human nature. But I've been especially bad about it with you. Assuming you wouldn't understand my work, my generation, technology, without ever actually trying to have a real conversation. It's never too late to start," I offered. She hesitated, then asked, "What made you invest in Tesla so early? Everyone thinks they'd recognize the next big thing, but most people don't actually pull the trigger." It was a genuine question, so I gave her a genuine answer. I've always followed a simple investment philosophy. Identify fundamental problems that need solving, find the companies with the best approach to solving them, and be patient. Very patient. That's it? No complex algorithms or insider information? She seemed almost disappointed. I laughed. "The fundamentals don't change, Amber. Only the packaging does. Your generation didn't invent innovation or disruption. You just gave them new names." For the first time, she laughed with me instead of at me. "Fair enough. And for what it's worth," I added, "I do own a smartphone. I just don't bring it to family gatherings because I'd rather talk to people than stare at a screen." Her face reddened slightly. "Touché." As they were leaving, Amber surprised me with a hug. "I'm sorry I've been such a judgmental daughter-in-law," she whispered. "And I'm sorry if I've ever come across as dismissive of your generation's contributions," I replied. "We have more to learn from each other than either of us realized." Michael looked surprised but pleased at this unexpected détente between his wife and father. 3 weeks later, I received a package from San Francisco. Inside was a new smartphone, not the latest model, but one with a simplified interface designed for seniors. There was also a handwritten note from Amber. "Not because I think you need it, but because I'd like to text you sometimes. I've set up your Tesla stock alerts on it too. P.S. I've started looking into some investment opportunities using your fundamental problems approach. Would you mind taking a look? A." Below that was a list of 3 companies working on climate change solutions. Her analyses were surprisingly thoughtful. I smiled and turned on the phone. Maybe there was hope for us after all. Would you believe it? The following month, Amber invited me to speak at her company's investment workshop. The topic: long-term technology investment strategies, lessons from an early Tesla investor. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. When I arrived at her sleek San Francisco office, she introduced me to her colleagues not as her Midwest boomer father-in-law, but as Richard Bennett, electrical engineer and technology investor. The respect in her voice was genuine. During the Q&A session after my talk, someone asked what I thought about cryptocurrency. Before I could answer, Amber jumped in. "Before Richard responds, I want everyone to know something. 3 months ago, I would have assumed he knew nothing about crypto. I would have been completely wrong, just like I was wrong about a lot of things. So maybe take a moment to check your own assumptions before he answers." Our eyes met across the room, and I gave her a small nod of appreciation. She smiled back. The real change, though, came 6 months later, when Michael and Amber announced they were expecting their first child. During their visit to tell me in person, Amber asked if I would consider moving closer to them in California. "We found a nice house just 10 minutes from us," she said. "It has a big backyard, perfect for teaching your grandchild how to grill on that ancient charcoal setup you refuse to replace." She was teasing me, but there was warmth behind it now, not condescension. "I'll think about it," I promised, and I meant it. That evening, as we sat on my back porch watching the sunset, a Midwest sunset that Amber admitted was actually pretty spectacular, she turned to me with unexpected seriousness. "You know what I've learned from you, Richard? Wisdom doesn't have a generation gap, or at least it shouldn't. And you know what I've learned from you? I replied. Never to underestimate someone who challenges my assumptions, even when they do it in an incredibly annoying way. I winked to let her know I was joking. Mostly. She laughed and raised her glass of iced tea. To assumptions, may we always be willing to have them proven wrong. I clinked my glass against hers. I'll drink to that. As I write this now, 2 years later from my new California home, yes, I made the move. I can look out my window and see my granddaughter playing in the yard. Amber and I still disagree about many things. Politics, the best way to load a dishwasher, whether vinyl records actually sound better than digital music. But there's respect in our disagreements now. And that $5 million in Tesla stock? It's grown to nearly $8 million. Not that it matters much. The real wealth, as it turns out, wasn't in my investment portfolio at all. It was in learning that connections between generations can be the most valuable investment of all, if we're willing to put in the work. Oh, and Amber finally convinced me to upgrade my grill. Not to one of those smartphone-connected monstrosities, but to a slightly newer charcoal model. Some traditions, we agreed, are worth preserving. So the next time you find yourself making assumptions about someone based on their age, their appearance, or where they're from, remember my story. The tech-illiterate boomer might just be a patent-holding Tesla investor. The entitled millennial might have insights you never considered. And the most valuable connections often begin the moment we set our assumptions aside. As for Amber and me, we're still learning from each other. Just last week, she helped me set up an Instagram account to share my grilling recipes, and I helped her understand the fundamental engineering behind the new battery technology her company is investing in. Different generations, different perspectives, same human capacity for growth. And that, my friends, is worth more than all the Tesla stock in the world.